So, as you can clearly tell by my golden Symmetra gun, I clearly know what I'm talking about. And that's the main reason you should listen to me. Golden Symmetra gun, probably good at Symmetra. Just kidding, don't be one of those. But
Anyone out there?
I saw a video on YouTube from a pro player, pro organization, Tempo Storm, and it was from their DPS player in Tempo Storm. I think his name was Huey, as in Huey from the Boondock Saints. Probably not spelled the exact same way, but or Huey, something like that. And he was going over Symmetra on first point defense on Hollywood, and wait, I'm thinking of the Boondocks, not the Boondock Saints. Anyways, he was going over for just basically the first point only, which is fine because I would swap to after the first point in most situations, depending on the ult charge I had left. But a lot of the things that he showed in his video, which you can find it on the, I guess it's like their dedicated Overwatch channel for Tempo Storm on YouTube. You can't miss it if you just, know how to use Google. But I didn't agree with a lot of the things he said, and he's supposed to be a pro player, so I guess there's just, I don't know, I guess I play Symmetra more than most people, including the pros themselves. I think the only person who probably plays more Symmetra than I do is Steve-O. But I don't know if Steve-O goes and practices things offline and just empty LAN servers like this and looks for things. I can't speak for him, but I can speak for myself. And from my own personal experiences, I've seen just very underwhelming advice being given out by pro players for Symmetra. So I'll give you an example of what I didn't like to see. All right. In his guide, he says this is a good turret. He says this is a good turret. All right. So it's just okay. I'm pretty sure this is the exact turret that he shows. Now, he was showing a bunch of turrets that you can place for early ult charge. That is good. That's something that you almost always want to do as a Symmetra unless you anticipate a full dive comp. And I mean all 6 heroes on the enemy team on attack are just going to be flooding through all different avenues, like a Pharah over with Mercy, a Winston, D.Va, crazy dive comp, alright? You don't put those kind of turrets up when you're against that. But anything else, fine. You want to build turrets for early ulti charge, like outside their spawn. That's fine. This particular position is horrible, though, and he said it's good. And he also said that this position was good. It's not. Neither of those positions are good. First of all, you can... Obviously, there's a range to this, right? It's not going to shoot you across the map. It becomes visible well before its range, right here. Clearly visible. The whole thing about putting sentry turrets up is you want them to be outside of field of view when they start attacking someone, right? So instead of putting one there like he recommends in his video, you would put one here. It would shoot them way later, but at the same time, as they come through like this, it's outside their field of view when they have to start attacking to kill it. Like if I can just shoot it from right here safely outside of its attack range, it's no threat. It's never going to build any ult charge. If I'm coming through here and it starts shooting me in the back, I have to actually make an adjustment to come kill it. And, obviously it varies with how fast the person's reaction time is to it and how quickly they dispose of it. But it's at least going to shoot something before it dies. This, against any remotely competent team, will be killed instantly at a range. Also, he showed this one. Now, this is a good one that he showed because it's very niche. And generally, the more niche a turret is, the less likely it is to get killed quickly. This is more niche. It covers less, but it also dies. It's more, you have to go out of your way to kill it. You don't have to go out of your way to kill this one. Like, you actually have to turn around, shoot it, go back to what you were doing. Just like this one, if it was under the car, right? If it was under the car, getting shot at, you kind of have to just turn around, do a 180, and then go back to what you were doing over here. Now, it's really good if a turret is positioned in a way where you have to do a 180 to take care of it, or do some kind of drastic turn to get it in your field of view. Because let's say a Reinhardt, and obviously a good Reinhardt's not going to do this, but depending on what level that you're playing at, some Reinhardts will turn around to kill it themselves, turn the shield around or something. Like, if say there's a stack of turrets, right? Let's just say you have like 6 turrets stacked on this side. Reinhardt turns around because he started taking damage from it, but then the shield's facing the wrong way and you just poke them from the side and kill them. Now, obviously, a good Reinhardt will never do that. He'll rely on everybody else to kill the turrets for him, unless it's close enough where he can just melee them around the corner. But anytime you can get somebody to do a 180 to have to kill your turret, and it's in a really niche spot that you have to go out of your way to kill, especially if you don't have any form of AoE to take care of it, it's good. There's a few spots on Hanamura which are very obnoxious to kill. They're very situational. They're only going to be hitting like 0.1% of players, but those 0.1% of players that they hit are probably going to die. For instance, another example of like really niche turrets that would kill something is up here. If you know they run like a Widow main or something like that on their team, this is like the first spot they always grapple to because they go for picks up here and all that. And all you do is you just, especially after the update, you just drop your first 6 up here, free Widow kill, you get about 15% ult charge off of him. Now he's either going to kill all of them, but you're still going to get a huge amount of ult, or it's going to kill him, slow down the push that much more, and you get ult charge. And because of the fact that they're up here, and they're completely out of the way to go kill, that means that the only person that can realistically take care of them is, let's say they have a Winston that can jump up there and take care of it. But that's a leap that's being used to defensively take care of turrets instead of dive your supports over here on the cafe balcony and things like that. It's making them use their resources and their time defensively rather than offensively, which is what they want to be doing when they're on attack. Whereas also, if they don't have anything that can clear this out safely, now Widow suddenly just can't go up here unless he wants to take the time to come up these stairs or however he wants to come up here, but have to meticulously kill all these turrets from a range, just like coming around and shooting them like this, and then he can use this spot, depending on where you place them up here. But the idea is you want to kill Widow who's just grappling up here blind, assuming there's not turrets on the floor. Now again, that's going to kill like 1% of players, and that 1% is going to be the Widowmakers, but it's going to kill them. And it's incredibly niche, so people have to go out of their way to go take care of it. Those are the kind of turrets that are good. Things like, what he was showing in his video, like right here, where it shoots a lot, but it's clearly visible to everybody, killable by everybody. It's not good. Same with putting it like right there. You want to put it right there, because again, it's the same concept where, okay, it's not shooting as much as one that would be right here, but it's going to shoot longer because somebody has to go around and do an adjustment to take care of it. Hardly anyone's crosshair placement is going to be like this, coming around a corner checking for a turret if they don't know it's there, right? And if someone's doing something ridiculous, like having to aim up here to kill it, then they're not looking over here and up here, which means you can exchange poke damage onto them for free. Assuming there's no Rhine shield going on. And ultimately, this is going to just end up building up more ult charge anyway. Just because of the fact that even if a Rhine comes through here, his shield is not going to be up here, it's going to be over here. So even the Rhine is going to just feed some ult charge to you. And if the Rhine is smart, he's not going to put down his shield for this turret. He's going to let somebody else take care of this, which means your turret is still building ult charge off of a Rhine who refuses to kill this because he doesn't want to put down his Rhine shield to get shot or hooked from something else over here. So the best possible thing you can hope for that's going to come through here is a Rhine, because he's not going to want to hit your turret. Especially if it's just one, when there's people behind him who can do it. It's the same kind of concept when they're stacked, but sometimes Rhines get a little bit greedy and they just want to melee and kill all of them in like one kind of swipe with their melee attack, their left click. Thing is though, that comes into another thing, right? If a turret is niche, then that means that it has a very specific role. And the thing is about these kind of turrets is you don't want them to stack together where they're easily disposed of from any kind of AoE damage, whether it's a Rhine swing or a Zarya, because remember, all these turrets have 1 HP, so if you have like a bunch of turrets, this is fine, right? But if I had like a bunch of turrets just like all here in the same elevation stacked, one Rhine swing is just going to kill all of these. It's not going to kill this, but it's going to kill these two instantly. And since these both only have 1 HP, it's so easy just to take care of these all in one swoop. So whenever you do stacks of turrets, you always want them to be spaced out so the AoE isn't really an easy option to remove all of them instantly. That's another pretty big thing I see people mess up all the time. Because people forget just how weak these things are. Literally anything in the game that does a tick of damage will kill these turrets. If they get hit by literally anything, even the smallest amount of AoE, they die. That's why sometimes in Hanamura, if those rocks that you can place turrets on the back side of them to help people come across the crossfire onto the point, people like to put turrets in the back of those. The problem is Zarya sometimes just kills them accidentally from AoE from just shooting at your teammates, and it just randomly hits them from just small AoE damage, making it to the back of the rock. So whenever you put your turrets in a spot, you don't want them to be in a spot where AoE or anything like that can take care of them easily, because it's the same problem with putting them out here. They're just too easily killed. And if your goal is to build alt charge, you want them to last as long as possible, so just space them out, but space them out in a way that they can still be shooting at the same target simultaneously. So it's pretty self-explanatory. Instead of putting them two here, you would just want to have two vertically, maybe a third one up here, because you have to remember these things have some pretty insane attack range. One at the top of this is still going to be hitting someone down here on the ground. And it's even better when obviously you have crossfires. It's pretty self-explanatory, you know, just have maybe one here, one here, one here, one here, something like that going on. Because again, it's the same concept. Not only are they spread out from AoE, but you also have to do 180 adjustments to take care of both sets. Whereas if you just have all four stacked on one side, sure, maybe they're spaced out a bit from AoE, but they're still all in the same field of view, so you just do that. Let's just say you have a Mei, and just kill them all in one little swoop like that, and it's easy. Whereas if they're on, maybe there's less on each side, but there's two on each side, so there's a crossfire, the Mei would have to do something like that, and then like that, which at least takes a little bit more effort than just a single vertical movement with their crosshair. So that's a few things on the turrets. About early alt charge. Again, if you're running against something like a dive comp and you expect like a huge dive comp, like not even a Rhine, just Winston, Diva, Genji, Lucio, just like they just plan on bolting through the choke. You don't want to do any of these early alt building turrets because you're going to need as many as you can on the actual point to defend your supports. So a few of the ones that he showed in the guide were really good, where he put them in the corner of those pillars. Those ones are fine because they abuse that adjustment mechanic where you have to just swing to kill them like that. Those are fine, because even for a Winston, that's kind of annoying if a Winston has to, you know, he's chasing a support down and shooting, and then he has to aim up here real fast to kill it. I mean, he's a Winston. He doesn't have to aim, so they're still going to die, but he still has to make that flick. So having really defensive ones for dive comps is good. Just make sure you spread them out, both from AoE and from, you know, the field of view adjustments I was talking about so many times. But another thing that he went over in his guide, the Tempo Storm guide, was he was saying that, you know, spam angles are pretty important, which is obviously true, but the way he demonstrates it is pretty bad. So this is what he shows in his video, all right? This is what he shows in this video. You know, he spams down here under the, you know, the van here. That's fine. But there's a few things that are wrong with how he shows it. And I'm going to assume that this is basically how he spams it. That's how he was spamming it in the video. He was spamming pretty much full charge orbs. And the problem with that is, first of all, the more you dedicate to a charge, the less frequent your shots are. I mean, that's pretty common sense. If I just barely tap the right click, there's going to be more of them. Now, if you're doing slow charges like this, and by the way, it doesn't help to charge it any more than the initial like ammo consumption, because past that, that's just like you doing it for timing reasons, not for extra damage. It doesn't count extra damage after that. So you just spamming large orbs only. Think back to when you used to play like single player games on a Super Nintendo or something like that, like Mario, where there's basic patterns that are easily dodged. The same concept here. If you just shoot purely large orbs and it's the same pattern, and it's going to be the same pattern because it's the same charge rate each time. If you were doing it like he was doing it, right, it's going to be a very predictable, easily avoided pattern. And plus the orbs are larger, so they're easier to see. And no one's going to walk into that, right? No one is going to walk into that. It's even remotely competent because they know what it means, so they get hit by that. It's so much ult for the Symmetra to get built up, right? But if you spam smaller orbs constantly, right? You have to keep in mind that these do not disappear. They will go on for all eternity until they hit something, right? Even if they're just small charges. And the thing about this is, there's more of them, so there's more frequent area denial, which means at some point, if there's a lot of spam going on, like say you have a Junkrat or any other kind of spam going on and a choke point, they might actually just say, screw it, it's a small amount of damage, a small amount of ult, I'll just walk through it so I can get past something else. And the thing with that is, if one person gets hit by it, that's not the end of the story for that orb, because it goes through the targets that it hits except for walls. So just because a small orb doesn't give you that much ult charge, if it hits somebody else after it hits the first target, it can rack up a lot of ult just from one small orb. One small orb going through 6 players is, I would say, off the top of my head, I think that's about, I would say a 10% ult charge after the nerf. I want to say 10% ult charge. And you have to think that if you can spam them out this frequently, not necessarily all in the same exact angle, you're going to have more chances to hit, albeit for less damage. And people are going to be more likely to not care about dodging them because they're less damage. They're not thinking on a level where, okay, well, I'm dodging this, but is my teammate behind me dodging this? No, they're not looking behind them to see if all your teammates are lined up and dodging all these small orbs. They're just taking into account what they're dodging, and they're like, okay, well, I'm just probably the only one getting hit by this small orb. I'm just going to go through it. Next thing you know, the Mercy was following the guy that was going through that, so the Mercy gets hit, and next thing you know, you have a 10-second teleport just from small orbs being fired. Now, the best possible thing you can do is spam angles sporadically. So this is more frequent, but it's also a pattern. So it is still, dodgeable. So the best thing you can possibly do is make it random. Something like that. Even more slightly random would be better. Just mix up the pattern and the amount that you dedicate to each shot. Because if you do that, the patterns are more sporadic. And let's say they get used to it. They see like 4 small orbs, like, okay, well, it's just a small one, I can walk through this. Next thing they know, they walk into a medium or a large orb, and you build a huge amount of ult off of them from that. Plus, you can always get the shock factor of maybe the supports walk into a few small ones, and suddenly, like, a Mercy walks into a large orb, and the Mercy dies, and now or the Ana dies, and the push is stalled because now they can't go through without an Ana. Their Ana's not building ult. Meanwhile, you probably have most of your TP ult built up, and then it's that much better for you. So the best possible way you can spam angles is to just spam completely random patterns, mix it up, and mix up the amount that you dedicate to each shot and the frequency. Don't just sit there and spam it 24/7, because, I mean, if they have a Hanzo or a Widow or something, they can just pick you under the car. Mix it up a bit, and mix up the angles slightly. So something like this. Something like that would be really good, because that's just a huge pain to have to deal with. There's no clear pattern, there's no clear passageway, because you're slightly adjusting the angle each time. Different frequencies, different shots are being fired, both small and large. It just is way more, it's way more optimal than what was shown in his guide. And you're way more likely to build early ult charge. Now, what a lot of people like to do, and you pretty much see this out of any decent Symmetra, right, is they go for the initial ult charge build off of the spawn gate, right? They do something like this. Now, that's fine and all if the team is blind, and if the team doesn't understand how vital it is for that to hit them. But the team understands how much ult you build from 6 people just stacking and getting hit by a full right-click orb. They're going to not run into it, just like a Fire Strike. They're going to dodge it. Actually, people generally actually get hit by Fire Strike intentionally so they can build faster ult charge on Ana or something. Kind of bad example there. They more so don't want to, because they don't care about a Reinhardt building up his ult a little bit earlier, but they do care about a teleporter being built up early. That is a huge difference. It's way more beneficial to have an early TP up than just having your Rein ult slightly earlier. So what they do is they just sit in just generally the same spot each time, and they'll just do a full charge just as the gates open, right? And then they'll run away and they'll do the little spam thing like he shows in his tutorial, albeit he'll do it, I would say, the improper way, the suboptimal way. And they'll just do, you know, Symmetra things. But the thing is about this is, like I said, it's easily dodged. They're not going to want to walk into it. They know how powerful an early TP can be, and they're going to dodge it. The best thing you can actually do is to go back as far as you possibly can, because think of it this way, right? You shoot from here, I guess right around the 5.5 second mark is when you would let go of your right click here, depending on how much charge you put into it. And what some people do is they'll throw in some smaller orbs behind it, so they'll do something like this. And then they'll back off as the door is open, right? And they're just now hitting over there, right? The problem with that is there's very little travel time. And there was only like four orbs that were ever shot. So if you were smart, you would actually think, okay, well, what if I just stand as far back as humanly possible, and I start charging earlier and start shooting earlier, but because of travel time, they get there when the door is open, which means I'm actually shooting more orbs for free. So they have to sit there and dodge them longer, and if they refuse to, if they get impatient, if they just say, okay, whatever, I'll just take the hit, you're going to get a hit much more likely than you would if you were just shooting just 4 from here, as opposed to maybe, you know, 10 from here. So whenever you do those kind of like off the spawn gate kind of pre-fires with these orbs, stand back as far as you can and time it in a way that your earliest orb from this huge of a distance is just going through as the door is open. Just learn the timing for it, because you'll be able to get more orbs in and deny the area for longer if you do that. There's actually pretty much no reason to do it up close like this, especially because you're actually pretty easily visible from here. If you were to do it from some very far angle, right, like something super far all the way over here, you know, they might not see you through the little, you can't really tell now because the doors are open on skirmish mode, but they might not be able to actually see you that well if you're all the way over here, as opposed to just out in the open, obviously just sitting here with a right click charged. So that's another thing that I guess people don't really take into account, is just get all the way far back as you can, because it actually means you can shoot more. So those were a few things that I didn't really like about the tutorial that he brought up. Obviously the tutorial, he made it before the Symmetra rework. I think it was like 6 days ago he made the tutorial. I can't really comment too much because I haven't played the PTR yet for Sim, but just from a general standpoint, keep in mind, I haven't played Symmetra and PTR, so I'm not fully aware of the exact specifics. But from what I know of the rework with the shield generator is pretty much unanimously better on King of the Hill now than it would be a TP. But teleporter is almost always better on every other kind of map, from what I can tell, unless they buff the shield generator to a ridiculous amount. TP will always be better on non-Koth maps, from what I can tell. Based off of what I know of Symmetra, before playing the PTR, just how she plays, the teleporter is still way too vital on any map that is not a you know, hill map.